Hello everyone, welcome to the Ultimate Guide. As you can see, I've made my recording room more appropriate for the occasion. Alright students, please get out your books and turn them to page 79. And then throw them out the window because they're useless here. Anyways, I'm going to be breaking this education into 8 parts. The first that I'll be going over is what the Foundation is and what it does. Part 2 is going to be about the employees of the Foundation. Part 3 is going to be sites, areas, and their labels. In the fourth part, I'll be going over the format of the Foundation documentation and why certain things are a certain way, and object classes. I'll even go over the new classification system. I've not made a video on one that uses the new classification format, but I will in the future, depending on if I stumble upon one that I would actually want to make a video on. In the fifth part, I'm going to be going over some key terms, the confusing jargon that the Foundation uses to describe things. If you've perused my channel for at least a minute, you probably stumbled into one of these. Part 6. The Foundation's administrations and departments. Certain researchers and staff in the Foundation belong to certain fields of research in which they deal with. The seventh part is going to be a list of some mobile task forces. This is because they may show up in certain documentation due to them specializing in dealing with certain anomalies. Obviously, I'm not going to be going over all of them for time's sake, because there are some mobile task forces that are meant to deal with a range of anomalies, and some that are meant to deal with one or a very small range of anomalies, plus the sheer number of them. Part 8 is going to be about the various groups of interest within our world. Even though the Foundation is, indisputably, the most capable organization, at least on the planet Earth, there are other groups who have their own role to play in this world. This ranges from organizations that are like the Foundation, such as the Global Cult Coalition, to cults and religions such as the Church of the Broken God, Sarcasm, and Fiftists. As I discussed beforehand, I will not be discussing all the groups of interest, since there's too many of them for me to discuss within a reasonable time frame. Alright, the SCP Foundation is a scientific and military organization whose goal is to contain anomalies from all across the world and to keep anomalies a secret. They have sites and areas all across the world, and I have heard they have some outside the world as well. It is unclear when the Foundation started, but from what I can recall from my research, the Foundation, as we know it, started sometime after the United States Civil War, although organizations like the Foundation had apparently existed since the dawn of man, although not nearly as far-reaching and powerful as the Foundation we have today. I will do this list roughly from the bottom to the top of the Foundation. D-Class. Inmates employed from the prison population, used to handle dangerous anomalies and used as test subjects. Containment Specialist. They contain and transport anomalies. Researcher. They research anomalies and develop new containment methods. Security Officer. They're tasked with guarding and protecting Foundation facilities and their inhabitants. Tactical Response Officers. Heavily trained and heavily armed teams that escort heavily dangerous anomalies and combat against hostile groups of interest. Field Agent. Undercover agents that are trained to look out for and investigate anomalies. Mobile Task Force Operative. Specialized personnel assigned to a mobile task force. Site Director. Are in charge of their designated site and are in charge of everyone in that site and report to the O5 Council. O5 Member. A member of the 13 members of the O5 Council and are designated O5-1 to O5-13. They are in charge of the entire Foundation and the highest ranking personnel in the Foundation. Alright, sites and areas. What they are and what is the difference between them and their labels. Before I explain areas and sites, I will briefly discuss outposts and observation posts. Outposts are extensions of a site or area, used to contain movable anomalies or observe anomalous locations. Observation posts are small facilities that are used as communication and monitoring hubs to observe population centers, mobile anomalies, as well as other Foundation facilities. They can also be used as safe houses for Foundation personnel who are undercover. Alright, on to sites and areas. Sites are covert facilities that are usually close to civilization that are used to research and contain anomalies. Areas are facilities that are far from any population center that are used to contain highly dangerous anomalies. Just about all areas and some sites have nuclear warheads built into them as fail-safe measures, just in case everything goes to. Some anomalies are very dangerous to the point where, unfortunately, the nuclear button may be the only option to prevent the Foundation from having a huge mess on their hands. Alright, on to prefixes. These are labels given to Foundation facilities to list their specialization. Some have specialization, some do not. The prefixes are as follows. Armed. A facility that contains very violent anomalies, or a facility that is under constant violent threat by an outside force. Biological. A facility that is meant to contain/research anomalies of a biological nature, from diseases to life forms. Containment. Facilities made for mass containment of anomalies. Dimensional. Facilities containing extra-dimensional anomalies. Humanoid. Facilities that research/contain sapient humanoid entities. Exclusionary. Facilities outside of reality. Extrasolar. A Foundation facility. In space. Lunar. A Foundation facility on the moon. Protected. A safe zone free of anomalies, built for other purposes. Provisional. A facility built around an anomaly. Reliquary. Facilities built to handle anomalies of religious or historical importance. Storage. Facilities built to store logistical equipment and or contain anomalous items that pose little risk. Research and surveillance facilities are self-explanatory. And if you'd like to know, I mostly visit storage sites since they contain most of what Marshall, Carter, and Dark's clients want, and tend not to have too much security due to the low risk that the anomalies pose that are contained within those facilities. Well, until I figure out that the odd item I'm carrying has some weird property that Marshall, Carter, and Dark didn't inform me on, and it makes the situation more difficult and or more painful than it has to be. At the top of most SCP files, there will be an item number, which will be SCP-, then its designated number. Below that will be the object class. I will get to that later. Then there will be the special containment procedures, which will list the procedures needed to contain the SCP in question. Then the description, that will describe the anomaly in detail if possible. There might also be addendums which add additional information to the document. Now onto the classifications. Safe. Can easily/reliably be contained. Euclid. Effort is needed to contain it, and or its containment isn't always reliable. Keter. It is very hard to contain, and or containment isn't reliable. Keter class objects usually need a lot of effort to contain. Neutralized. The object is no longer anomalous. Explained. The object is an acceptable part of science. Thaumiel. An SCP used in the containment of other anomalies. Decommissioned. An SCP intentionally destroyed by the Foundation. Apollyon. An SCP that is uncontainable, or is expected to breach containment. These SCPs, usually, are at risk to cause XK class scenarios, and require a massive amount of effort to deal with. Archon. An SCP that can theoretically be contained, but for whatever reason, the Foundation has chosen not to contain it. Pending. A temporary classification for an object that is currently being classified. Esoteric. Does not meet any standard classifications. I will now discuss the new classification system. Now, the document lists the clearance level needed to access it, a disruption class, and risk class. Clearance levels are not new, but in the new classification system, it lists the requirements for accessing the document. First, I will briefly discuss clearance levels. They go from level 0, which is the lowest, to level 5, the highest, which dictates the level of information the person is allowed to have access to. The higher the clearance level, the more classified information the person is allowed to have access to. Now, I will list the security requirements. Unrestricted. Fully available to all personnel, regardless of clearance level. Restricted. Fully available to all personnel level 2 or above, unless otherwise specified. Confidential. Fully available to all personnel level 3 or above, unless otherwise specified. Secret. Fully available to all personnel level 4 or above, unless otherwise specified. Top secret. Locked to all personnel without express permission or overseer clearance level. Now I will list the disruption class levels, which will list the disruption to population centers if it were to be left uncontained. Dark. Little to no potential to disrupt the general population, with usually only one person being affected. Vlam. Low potential to disrupt the general population, with usually only a group of individuals being affected. Kennic. Moderate potential to disrupt the general population, with its effects extending to huge groups of people such as a city. Eki. High potential to disrupt the general population, with its effects being able to spread to an entire country. Amida. The anomaly is an existential threat to the status quo and the Veil at large. The Veil being described as an illusion that no anomalies exist at a widespread capacity, with its effects being worldwide and potentially universal. Now, on to risk classes. Notice, it poses little to no risk to the individuals exposed to it. Caution, it poses low to moderate risk to the individuals exposed to it. Warning, it poses moderate to significant risk to the individuals exposed to it. Danger, it poses significant to extreme risk to individuals exposed to it. Critical, it poses instant and/or extreme risk to individuals exposed to it, with no chance of recovery. Now, before I move on to Part 5, I will discuss some esoteric object classes. Surinturnius can theoretically be contained, but for logistical or ethical reasons, it is not. Hemiel, a system of two different but related anomalies that keep each other under control. Timat poses a threat to humanity, but can be contained via open warfare. Ticonderoga, item cannot be contained, but does not need to be contained. Uncontained, anomalies that the Foundation is aware of, that are not contained, or have escaped containment and have not been recontained. Before I get into some commonly used words, I will first explain redacted and expunged. If something has been redacted, that means it is above your security clearance to know about, and has been blotted out. If something was expunged, it means that it has been removed from the record entirely, for whatever reason. Perhaps the information was memetic or an info hazard. I will get to those terms eventually. Anomalous, a term used to describe something that is not explainable by modern science. K-class scenario, a theoretical end-of-the-world scenario. There are multiple different kinds, but the outcome is generally not good. POI, or person of interest, individuals that the Foundation is currently investigating or observing. Anti-memetic, they are self-keeping secrets that inhibit minds from observing, comprehending, or understanding them. Cognitohazard, this refers to anomalies that affect an individual or a group of individuals who are exposed to them when they sense them. Infohazard, an anomaly that affects people who have knowledge of them. Ectoentropic, anomalies that produce matter or energy with no apparent source. Hume, a unit that measures the reality in the area. Memetic, memes are a base unit of culture. They are ideas/concepts, and anomalous memes may have effects on people exposed to them. They are spread through the exchange of knowledge, aka communication. Reality bending/warping, an entity or object that can warp reality. Amnestic, a drug that wipes a person's memory, going back a period of time depending on the strength of the amnestic used. Mnestic, the opposite of an amnestic. It helps people remember things. AIC, artificial intelligence construct. AIs built for a general or specific purpose. SRA, or Scranton Reality Anchor, an anomalous interface that restricts reality bending and anchors reality to baseline levels. ANR/anartists refers to anomalous art and anomalous artists. Alright, that wasn't nearly all the terminology you may come across in the documentation, but if I read all the weird words that they say in these documents, I would be here for an eternity, so I will leave the rest for you to investigate. First, I will list the 3 Foundation administrations. The O5 Council. As I mentioned before, they are a group of 13 individuals who are in charge of the Foundation, who sometimes intervene in a major event, with their decision being final. They are in charge of deciding what and what is not ethical in the Foundation, and deciding what sacrifices are necessary and which ones are not. They are also in charge of trying Foundation personnel who broke Foundation policy and making judgments. Record Keeping and Information Security Administration, or RESA for short. They are in charge of maintaining and monitoring Foundation records as well as deciding what to redact and what not to redact. Now, I will move on to some Foundation departments, for time's sake. Artificial Intelligence Applications Division. They are basically the Foundation's IT department. They also deal with cybernetic anomalies. Fire Suppression Department. They look out for the Foundation's staff's well-being and supporting a safe and supportive work environment. How nice. Department of Tactical Theology. They are responsible for the containment of, and sometimes destruction of, theological anomalies such as holy relics, cults, and apex tier pluripoint entities. Whatever that is. Department of Surrealists. They deal with anomalies that cannot be understood with normal human thinking. It was founded on October 35th, 1491, by a swarm of intelligent blue butterflies. The department uses anagonists and upbrain thinking to understand unreality, and has their headquarters in metaphysical space. Wait, I thought the Foundation already has a Department of Unreality. Oh well, maybe I'm just imagining things. Anti-Memetics Division. They deal with self-censoring anomalies or anti-memetic anomalies. To do this, they use amnestics, extensive training, and observation. They deal with the threats that everyone else forgets about. Alpha 1. Red Right Hand. A collection of the Foundation's best and most loyal personnel who report directly to the O5 Council. Omega 1. Law's Left Hand. Empowered to remove high-ranking personnel if they are determined to be acting unethically, and report directly to the Ethics Committee. Alpha 4. Pony Express. Consists of undercover agents who track, intersect, and contain anomalous items sent through the postal system worldwide. Beta 7. Maz Hatters. They contain anomalies that present extreme biological, chemical, and/or radiation hazards. They are also involved in cleanup of areas affected by anomalies, as well as deal with anomalous diseases. Gamma 5. Red Herrings. They deal in the suppression of knowledge of anomalies and anomalous events, if that information has reached public knowledge, and research experimental amnestics and memory fabrication. Epsilon 11. Nine-tailed Fox. They are deployed to sites and areas when a containment breach is happening or is inevitable, in an attempt to recover the site/area. Zeta 9. Mole Rats. They contain anomalies in enclosed, unstable, and/or inconsistent environments. Eta 10. See No Evil. They contain anomalies that exhibit visual cognitohazards and/or memetic hazards. Eta 11. Savage Beasts. They contain anomalies of an auditory nature, having auditory cognitohazards and/or of a musical nature. Phi 1. City Slickers. They contain anomalies in high-density areas, primarily cities. Now, on to the other groups of people who are involved in the anomalous world. First of all, my employer, Marshall Carter & Dark Limited, are a club based in London, catering to the super-rich with extensive political and financial connections all across the world. They are known for collecting rare/anomalous items and auctioning them and providing its members with the most exclusive, rare, and most importantly, expensive experiences available. They are also known to be a big pain in the butt for the Foundation by causing multiple containment breaches using their wealth and power to have their way if the Foundation has them they want. And I, of course, have no involvement in any of those breaches. Global Occult Coalition. They are a group of scientists, occultists, and physicists, and priests who formed after World War II, and whose goal is to destroy all anomalies. The GOC has the most high-tech experimental technology in order to achieve this. The Foundation and the GOC have a shaky relationship at best, with their somewhat contradictory aims that sometimes put them at odds with one another. Well, if there's any GOC members watching this, I would really like to say, good luck. Anderson Robotics. Founded by Vincent Anderson, they are a small group that specialize in the making of anomalous robotics. From robots to AIs, they definitely have made a name for themselves in the world of paratechnology. Are We Cool Yet? Is a collective of anomalous artists who make anomalous art, and expose them to as much people as they can. The effects from viewing their art vary, but range from inconvenient to potentially devastating, depending on the artist, but the Foundation is currently attempting to crack down on Are We Cool Yet? To prevent mass psychological damage. I'm not a big fan of anomalous art. I might enjoy it a bit more if it didn't feel like I was having a migraine when I view the art, but I do keep some art pieces for the purpose of increasing my resistance to cognitive hazards through regular exposure. The Fifth Church. It is a cult that is primarily made up of celebrities and media personalities. Its practices and goals are somewhat unclear, with the only presence of the fifth world, as well as the number 5 being repeatedly present. Since I personally don't have much more to say about the Fifth Church, I'll just play a quote from a doctor whose name is redacted, since he seems to have more knowledge on the Fifth Church than I do.
This church is to other churches what clowns are to people. There are some superficial similarities, but all the wrong things are being emphasized and exaggerated, so you can't quite put your finger on what is wrong. Sure, it isn't out to get you, but what does it mean? Why is it there? What happens if it calls to you?
The Chaos Insurgency. They are a splinter group of the Foundation, after a rogue cell betrayed the Foundation and stole a few SCPs, with them in 1924. Today, the Chaos Insurgency has become more significant than just a splinter group, with them using anomalies to their benefit, as well as engaging in gun running and intelligence gathering. They have gained power through making lucrative deals with dictators and poor countries in their opposition. This has granted the Chaos Insurgency ample numbers and ample test subjects. The Church of the Broken God. They are a religion of sort that believes in a mechanical god that broke itself apart in the creation of the universe, and or the imprisonment of Yaldabaoth, the Sarkic's god, to prevent Yaldabaoth from making the world into whatever the Sarkics would call paradise. With the Foundation and the Church of the Broken God being at odds with one another after the Foundation has supposedly contained pieces of their god, with the Foundation being labeled as heretics by the Church, with its leader being Robert Bemiro. Sarkicism. It is a religion with a variety of traditions, beliefs, and spiritual practices, with its original founder being supposedly Grand Carsus Dion. Their practices include, but are not limited to, human sacrifice, thermatology, corporeal augmentation, dimensional manipulation, and of course, ritual cannibalism, with disease being revered as a means to cull the weak, as they say. Sarkicism can be roughly separated into 2 types, Proto and Neo-Sarkic. Proto-Sarkics usually live in poor, remote areas and isolated communities that are generally hostile to outsiders and technology in general. Neo-Sarkics are generally the opposite. They embrace modernity and generally blend in with society and practice in secret, with some Neo-Sarkics having high social status. Well, I actually have a book on their rituals that I bought off some guy. It was a long time ago. I believe it was only a few months after I arrived in this universe and got myself situated. Anyways, I forgot the man's name or what circumstances led me to meet the man, but he offered me the book in exchange for some money. I reluctantly took the offer since I was just getting interested in occultism, and I needed some books. Anyways, a few days later, I read the book. Okay, more like perused the book. It was big, at least a few hundred pages, and it had a weird metallic smell coming from it, which made reading unpleasant. Well, needless to say, I haven't touched the book since. Even I don't have the stomach to do most of the rituals inscribed within the book. Anyways, back to the groups of interest. And finally, the Serpent's Hand. They are a small organization based in the Wanderer's Library that's goal is to normalize anomalies and free humanoid, non-hostile anomalies. They primarily are opposed to the GOC, who destroys anomalies, including humanoid ones that are non-hostile. They are also opposed to the Foundation, who imprisons them, and the Chaos Insurgency, who exploits them, but to a lesser degree, and they have breached containment multiple times to pursue their goals, with one of their leaders going by the initials LS. Now, you may think I have extensive knowledge on the Serpent's Hand, since I grew up in the library and spent most of my existence there. Well, you see, the library is actually huge, bigger than anyone could hope to imagine, and it's filled with all sorts of inhabitants from different universes, since the library connects them all. And the group I was with was at least a few 100 miles away from the closest region had by members of the Serpent's Hand, so I had little contact with them, with my only memory going back from when I was a child. I heard someone conversing with some of the group I live with, and I believe they were trying to convince the group to join the Serpent's Hand, which they refused since my group had little knowledge of the Foundation, and none of the Foundation's antics would really affect my group anyway, so I guess they did not have any interest in joining the group. Anyways, there's no way I'd directly oppose the Foundation if I wasn't getting paid to do so. Alright everyone, thank you for getting to the end of this sample of all the crazy crap that happens in the anomalous world. Alright everyone, I hope you have a good day, night, or whatever equivalent you have, and goodbye.